Hey, welcome everybody to the last info session for the Graduate Certificate in Healthcare Innovation for this session. We're excited today to bring in one of our current students as a guest to answer some questions and give some perspective on what the program's like and how it combines with the Master of Product Innovation program, since those are her two degrees she's working on here. We'll go around first to introduce ourselves and give a little bit of a short kind of definition of what this program is. And then we'll interview Charissa and get into all the nitty-gritty details of what you need to apply and those kinds of things. So I will kick us off. I'm Allison Schumacher. I'm Director of Academic Alchemy for the VCU da Vinci Center and co-director of this particular program for the Graduate Certificate in Healthcare Innovation. This certificate really is about bringing healthcare providers together with people who like to create products or want to create products in a cross-disciplinary format to help learn both sides of how that might work in order to propel careers and things forward. So I'd like to introduce my co-director here, Dr. Ingrid Pretzer-Aboff. Ingrid, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Allison. I'm Ingrid Pretzer-Aboff, faculty at the School of Nursing, the VCU School of Nursing. I'm a nurse scientist. I study Parkinson's patients and medical devices. I have a company, I have IP, and I've gone through the very process of what this certificate is all about. So I know firsthand what all the courses and how they could be helpful in terms of innovative ideas that we have and want to intersect with the healthcare field. And we'll go. Yeah. Give it back to you, Allison.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So, this program is really intended to help anyone who, already has a bachelor's degree be able to potentially bring a product idea forward. And that can mean you're a healthcare provider and you see a need in the healthcare space and you want to know, how do I actually bring this forward? Or you're someone from outside the healthcare space who may dabble in a lot of different things, but sees that healthcare really is ripe for improvement and want to know the regulations and the safety concerns and the organizational structures and all the things that you don't know when you're outside of the healthcare field, to help you build a better product as you move forward. Adaptation of products into a health system can be really challenging. And having enough time and energy when you're a healthcare provider to actually go out and learn on your own, like Ingrid has, on how to actually bring a product to market can be a really big challenge. So this certificate, we're trying to marry those two things or those two ideals to help get people to the next step. So today we have one of our students from the first cohort of this certificate. So we officially launched this and brought in our first students in fall of 2020. So this program is still relatively new, but we have lots of examples in the past of how our students have created healthcare innovations, how they have found solutions for healthcare, and how they keep coming to us and saying, hey, we want to work in this field. How do we learn more? How do we invest more of our time into these types of things? And so Charissa Au is one of our current Master of Product Innovation students. She's kind of special to me because of her background and that she also participated in Da Vinci undergraduate programs. But Charissa is simultaneously in the MPI and in the certificate. She has a background in the arts, specifically graphic design, like I do. It's why it hits me right here, because designers, we are natural problem solvers, and just how we think through problems and those kinds of things, I think lends itself very well to product and very well to the empathy that you have to have when you're in healthcare. She has worked on some medical products before. So she worked on one for chronic sinusitis when she was in our undergraduate certificate in product innovation. And she also worked on tangentially, I guess, related to healthcare, to be able to help parents better engage with their children's ABA therapy through a telehealth product this past fall, which they created some really impressive solutions, really talking to users and understanding how users might need to use the product that they were working on. So Charissa, I got some questions for you. Would you like to introduce yourself? Or I did just give you kind of an intro, but is there anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot. I think the only other thing I would say is that right now I took a break from healthcare products for a while. I took a semester where I was working on a different project. And while it was a great project, I just found myself still drawn back to healthcare. And so this current semester, the summer semester that we're in, I'm also working on a healthcare project that's focusing on needle stick injuries in the OR. And so, yeah, healthcare just really gets me. So that's the only other thing I would say.
You just can't help it. It's just going to keep bringing you back in until you can create some impact, right? To really launch something out into the world. So let me bring up my questions here, and let's kick it off with, let's see. All right, so first thing, what first interested you into this program? I know you actually applied to the Graduate Certificate of Healthcare Innovation first before you applied to the Master of Healthcare Innovation, or sorry, the Master of Product Innovation. Getting our own degree wrong over here. Get your names right. So, so what first interested you in joining the certificate?
Yeah, so I don't have any clinical experience in healthcare. And I was actually, so in the undergrad program working on that one healthcare project, I think that was a really unique experience for me, being able to work to a level where we're able to have, very interesting and also useful conversations with healthcare professionals. That was not something that I'd ever done at that point, being an undergrad. And then also coming out of undergrad, I knew that I wanted to continue that. And a lot of my close friends work in healthcare. And so I've always had sort of an interest in healthcare that really does not fit into any of my skill set or my area of study. Like Allison said, I studied graphic design. That is not medical. And on top of that, I think I also just was starting to see that there are a lot of things in healthcare that can use an outside eye. And that isn't necessarily because, people in healthcare can't see what an issue is or where potential is. They see all those things because they work with it every day. But what I was really seeing was that it was really just an issue of focus and time, and really having that role where they are the providers of care. And so while, there are issues with the system that they might be working in, they're still part of that system, and they need to use it every single day. And so it's really helpful to have someone who maybe isn't from the same field be able to take the time to take all that research that they've been putting together, take all of these insights that they've been putting together and turn that into something else.
That's really cool. Was the chronic sinusitis project, was that the first healthcare project you've worked on?
Oh yeah, for sure. I thought that, okay, so something that you don't know, Allison, I had a really hard time deciding to study graphic design. I was not going to be an art major. I was deciding while I was applying to colleges between history, math, and engineering. So graphic design was not on the list. But I actually realized that I think like design is something that just covers a lot of ground. And because all of my, my different interests didn't fit into one of these degrees that I was interested in pursuing, I thought, okay, I'll do design to try and do something that can fit into any industry. But of all the different industries that I was interested in, all the different majors I was interested in, healthcare was at the bottom. There was no way, like I thought nothing science related. There's no way I'm doing anything medical. That was just the thing I was the least interested in until I was part of Da Vinci and then worked on that one healthcare project. So yeah, that was the first healthcare project I ever worked on.
It's amazing what you learn about yourself as you're challenged with new experiences. And two, it's also interesting what I learn about students when conducting these interviews. I think every time I learn something new about the student, that's fantastic. It just lets me know I need to ask these questions more diligently in everyday conversation, right?
I think if I could interject, Chris, I think it was a really good point that you made, that an outside set of eyes looking in. So I'm very much an interdisciplinary researcher and worker, and it does take a team of people, to catch that old phrase from way back when, to look at a problem. So I think that's great that you could see that and help design and learn to speak with the healthcare system and the people in it, so that working together to help benefit our patients, which is what our goal is, is very, very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent insight. Okay, so you are out working as a designer, right? Do you see what have you learned in this program that maybe is already started to extend into your professional life, if anything?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I wouldn't say that what I do right now is the most relevant to healthcare specifically, but definitely that combination of things did bring me, for one thing, to the role that I'm in now. And then also, when I first started working at CapTech, I was put on this side project because it took a long time for me to actually be staffed on a client project. And so for a while, I wasn't working on, a certain project. I was just working on a lot of side projects for everyone else.
Mhm.
And one of those happened to be in healthcare. And it wasn't healthcare like I was studying in the program. It was actually to do with research. And we were researching different clients, different healthcare companies, and then doing a lot of analysis of that data and looking into, how that might influence our relationship between my company and these other healthcare companies. And that was something that I think was a really interesting combination of the skills that I got from the program. On one end, a lot of the business end of like the analysis and just how to do research, honestly, was really helpful there because I had no context. Like I was very intimidated because this was like my first week at my job, and they were like, "Oh, you do know you're giving this presentation, right, to like all of our top executives?" And I'm like, this is not in the assignment, but okay, we're doing this. And it ended up being a really good experience because doing all of that research was honestly just a huge confidence booster to be like, okay, I'm in the professional world and I can do this. I have the background, I have the knowledge to analyze this data to make predictions that are confirmed by the people around me who are experts in this field, who are, they've been building these relationships for years, and they're looking at what I've put together and saying, hey, this makes sense. And that honestly, when you first start working, is really great just to get that reassurance that, what you're learning is being applied, and, dealing with maybe some imposter syndrome and being in an industry I never expected to be in. But that was one end, just like the actual knowledge that I get from the program, whether that's business or healthcare, that was really helpful for starting out. And the other thing would be just teamwork. So I work in an industry where you are constantly in an interdisciplinary team, because there is almost no project that we work on that is purely design or purely engineering, purely like a systems integration project. It's usually a combination of a ton of different things. And so that was my first professional experience, being on a team with people from so many backgrounds. And I definitely get people who are more experienced than me or who have worked for longer coming to me to ask, what is it like to work with people from different disciplines? Because they haven't had that experience. So a lot of companies, you'll go and you do work in a very individualized role. So you're on a single team, you work with that team and you get your work done. That is not what my job is like. We will have, these calls where my developers are just asking me to explain, why do we design this way? Why do you work in multiples of 8? Why do you do this or that? And when does this matter and when does it not? And learning to explain yourself and learning to communicate with people from different backgrounds, and also to receive feedback on your own work, I think is really important and something that I really loved experiencing from this program. I have a lot of special memories of that one undergrad team that I worked on, that first healthcare project with. And one of the biggest things that I really enjoyed about that project was just that the people from engineering or business would question me, would question all the design decisions we were making, would question all of, the structures that we were working on. And that was how we built a good project, was we didn't know what the other person knew. And so we had to question everything. And I think that is always applicable to any work setting, even if you do end up in a team with just designers or just programmers or whatever it may be, then learning that skill of stepping back and not being so attached to your work is really important.
Yes. Oh my goodness, so many good points that were just made in all of that. And trying to recap that is a bit of a challenge, but yes, being able to work with people who think differently than you do, even if you are essentially tasked with the same type of problem solving, everybody thinks differently. And yeah, not falling in love with your ideas initially, being able to take that feedback, being able to administer feedback, being coachable is a huge part of the professional world, regardless of where you work. And wow, those are really amazing takeaways. Thank you for that. And I'm very glad to hear that you got to work on a healthcare related project in your design job. I mean, you have a perspective that's going to be different than the other people that you work with, and that's super important and valuable. That's excellent. Okay, so if someone was curious about a program like this and its content, how would you describe it to them?
The first thing that I think of is that a lot of the knowledge for me in particular was very, very immediately applicable. So before I got the job that I'm working at now, I was freelancing. I was working on projects for, a lot of smaller companies. And I remember starting this program, and a couple of weeks in, I was telling my coworker, I've never been in a program where everything I'm learning is so immediately applicable. As in, like, the next day, I need to use this. I need to use this structure. I need to use this knowledge. So that was something that was surprising to me, because that's not a lot of what you get from undergrad. Undergrad is a lot of knowledge that you need in the future. It's not something that you take and you apply right away. And I think that's a good description of this program, is you get a lot of skills that you can put into practice right away. I would say it's very unique because it demands a lot of you, whether that's your time or your emotional energy, I don't know, just like learning to work your brain in ways that you haven't before. I think that it's different when you come into a program and you're working on a project that you actually really care about. You actually, you have some say in being on this project. You know what you're interested in, you're able to pursue that, and have some guidance and a lot of, community along the way. That is something that's really unique to this program. I haven't necessarily experienced in other places. I think just that community and mentorship is a really big aspect of the program, aside from what you learn in the different classes.
That's really great. So I know you just finished one of the nursing classes this spring, so I'm going to give you a curveball of a question. So the nursing classes being online and asynchronous, were there group projects? Did you feel like you were connected to other people in the class?
Yeah, that was very surprising to me, because I was a little disappointed when I found out it would be online and asynchronous. And then I just had this really great experience with class. And for sure, that is, up until the one I'm in now, which I think is going to be harder, that was the hardest class I've ever taken in my life. And it wasn't because, the content was very complicated. It was just a ton of content. And we did have group projects, and we did actually get to interact with each other a ton, because we have a really great professor who really, really encourages conversation. And so the way that the class works is you would be required to, comment on your classmates' presentations, and, just comment on their work, and they would comment on yours. And that was a really great way of building conversation in a space where we all are on different schedules. We all, we might not even have the time or the energy to do that if we were in a class discussion, but the structure of the class really allowed for that conversation. When you're in class having discussion, you can't necessarily share all of your thoughts, but when you're commenting on someone's presentation, you can write a whole paragraph if you want. They can respond a paragraph back. And it was very valuable to me to get that perspective from people who are actually working in healthcare, because, like I said, I don't have clinical experience. I'm not going to have clinical experience. And so there's no way I can do the work that I'm interested in if I'm not learning to communicate with people in healthcare. And on top of that, I think that the group project was also, it was really challenging. It taught us all a lot about, the actual face-to-face communication and your different styles of thinking, actually. So different styles of problem solving. And so that was a really good class. I'm really glad I had the chance to be in that.
That's really interesting. And you're talking about how challenging this is. The individual classes, I absolutely attest. These are challenging classes, but in a really good way, right? Like you're getting applicable skill sets. You are, you're challenging your brain in a different way that you can then apply the next day, which is really fantastic. But for our audience who will be tuning in later, I do want to specify and create the difference, the separation there, that Charissa is both in the Master of Product Innovation program and the Certificate of Healthcare Innovation. Just stressing that. So she was taking a semester of like 12 credits in the fall, just certificate students, not doing that. So you have maybe a little bit more time and energy to focus on 1 or 2 classes as opposed to, 12 or 15 credits at a graduate level. Feel the need to not scare people, but be prepared to be challenged.
That I'm putting out there. No, I think that the difficulty is necessary, because when I say difficult, I don't just mean like it's a hard class in terms of the content. I think it's hard to think about. So in undergrad, there is, this aspect of you do have classes that are just requirements, and you have to do them just to do them. And it's different in a graduate program. You're not only required to learn content that is complex, and we don't learn it so that we can be tested and memorize all the information. We learn it because we're being asked our opinions on it. And you have to have an opinion. You can't complete this work or do this program without having an opinion and perspective. And that is personally challenging. And it has meant a ton of growth in the ways that, even that one class that I was just talking about in the beginning, we had such a hard time just having one single meeting and having everybody understand each other. And by the end, being able to talk to the exact same group of people and realize, hey, like I've learned how to talk to you, and we're getting somewhere, and we have a ton to learn from each other. I think that is something that needs to be difficult, because if you're not challenged in that area, you're not going to grow out of it.
Yeah. Agreed, Charissa. There's many times that I've worked with engineers, even within the healthcare field, different aspects of it, and not just technology, different therapists, etc. We have different ways of saying things, and I'm a nurse. We have different words that we use to say things, and it's taken even Allison and I, sometimes we look at each other like, what does that mean? What exactly are you saying? But it does. It's not a universal language, although we speak English. It really isn't. It just, they're very specific words we use in different settings. And so I'm glad that you had that experience to grow through that. And you're right, it's got to be uncomfortable. If you're going to learn something, it can't be easy.
What do we call that through team formation, and when we use Scrum project methodology? It's forming, storming, norming, performing.
I am a Scrum master, but I can't give you those words. I just took it once.
The stages that a team might go through. So you had to have your forming time, then you're storming a little bit. Everybody's kind of jockeying for position. How do you communicate with each other? Norming a little bit to where things get a lot more comfortable, and then you can fly knowing each other's strengths and really perform with what you're doing. Yeah. Just the lovely terminology that we always get to kind of throw out there. They turn into buzzwords and those kinds of things. But, upon reflection, gives a pretty accurate evaluation of where we sit in a lot of times in teams. That's wonderful to hear. As long as you persevere, you're gonna find your way forward with those teams. So all right, which other question do we want to ask here? So has anything shifted in the way that you look at problems?
The way that I look at problems, maybe.
What's your problem? So
something that I hadn't thought of until just now was that when I started, in the undergrad program, and I know the graduate program, it's not necessarily the exact same program, but I think I started thinking about it then when I was in undergrad. And coming into that program and then this program afterwards, I definitely have noticed a shift in the way that I first approach a problem, because when you are in a very individualized environment where you're being asked to complete an assignment, or you're being asked to create something, we're always creating things in design, a lot of times you want to solve the whole problem from beginning to end, and then you're asked to create a plan for how you're going to get to that end result, whatever that may be. And that for me was a struggle because I was so, caught up in wanting to make this perfect product or this perfect piece of design that it would really tie me to whatever method I started. And I always, overcommitted and would take on too big of a thing. And then all I could think about was, I just need to get this done. I just need to complete all of these things that I said I was going to do, forgetting that no one else knew what I had planned to do in the first place, but that's beside the point. And that's like not a helpful way of problem solving when you're really, at work and you just need to get this done with your team. I think something that I've noticed is that my initial approach has changed a lot from like, I need to solve this problem and I know how to solve this problem, to how can I solve this problem? Who do I need to help get me there? Like, how can we all contribute to getting to this end result versus, trying to come up with the entire timeline and everything just all at once coming out of my brain where, at a certain point, if you're out of the design world or you're out of like whatever familiar environment you've been in, and every industry is changing. So at some point you're going to reach a point where you're not in something that you're familiar with. It's not the most helpful to approach that thinking that you have all the answers or thinking that you need one particular answer. I think it's really helpful to get experience in failing, like we say, just you try something, you fail, and you put it aside instead of trying to fit something from that into your final. You don't need to like bring a perfect result out. You just need to bring something that is meaningful to your users. You need to bring something that, is applicable to the problem you're being asked to solve instead of making a project. And that is a really big difference and has helped a lot in the way that I work now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just wanting something to feel maybe finished or designed is not necessarily the right solution if you're not focused on users, or maybe fidelity of the solution you initially present isn't as important as how meaningful it is to the people who actually use the thing or buy the thing or, have the thing used on them. Speaking of healthcare, right? So that's really interesting. And it is an important lesson to learn. And it's something that after many years of teaching both design and product innovation, that it's a bit of a struggle. It's like, hey, maybe your prototype doesn't need to be quite so refined and you need to spend your time on testing that prototype first to get the feedback to make sure you're on the right path. Yeah, that's really fantastic. Well, I know that we said 30 minutes, so I want to give the opportunity, if there's anything else you would like to add to this, please do. Is there anything else that you would like to share with potential future students of this program that you haven't already shared?
I think something I would say if, someone's questioning whether this is a program for them or whether, it's worth it to pursue a whole other degree. I think that I had a hard time deciding that I wanted to be part of this program because it's hard to be in school for longer than you'd originally planned. But it's been very worth it. And something that I don't want to forget is that this program is a lot about relationships. It's not just about the work that you're doing or the experience that you're getting. It's a place where you're learning that, partnerships with the people you're working with and communication with people from different backgrounds, different fields. That is something that, I find very valuable as a part of this program. And that to me has been really worth it. The friendships, the relationships and like connections, all of that, it's not something that you can say, oh, you're going to get, 15 connections at the end of this class. It's more of just, I love these people. I love the way that, they encourage me to think. I love the way that they challenge me. And that's something that I would not give up for sleeping in.
Can I ask you one more question before you go, Charissa? Working with, because it is meant to be a bridge program to get both talents, the healthcare industries and their needs and their ability. Their strength is to know the needs of patients and processes that have to be changed or products that could be built. How did you see, or what did you learn from that part of the bridge? Like, what did you gain from working with the healthcare professionals specifically?
There's a lot of perspective that you can't get without talking to people who work in healthcare every single day. So at my job, as I've said, even if I were to work in the healthcare space, I wouldn't necessarily be talking to clinicians. And that's just with my particular projects that I've been on at my job. And on top of that, because I don't come from, a healthcare background, that's not a space that I would have. And in terms of the healthcare, this was my first time, working together so closely with people who see patients every single day. I've always been on the other end of that. I've always been the patient, not, a provider. And, it's very different from having an interest in healthcare from the point of view of a provider and saying, I want to be the one giving the care. I want to be the one taking care of patients. That's not something I think, that this program is meant to do. You're not meant to come out of this as a nurse, and you're not meant
That's right.
as a clinician. And the value that there is in getting the certificate, or being part of the certificate program, I should say, is I think learning and seeing from your classmates' perspectives or from your colleagues' perspectives, how would this thing function for you? And what are the things that you think about? What are the questions that you ask when I bring this problem to you, or when we think about, the structure of a healthcare organization? Even all of that is very different from the other businesses that we work with. And so knowing the structure of, healthcare, how do hospitals earn money? Why do nurses do this or that? What are the different roles in a hospital, and how does, all of its hierarchy function? That knowledge is really important. And having that context makes it, so much easier to talk with your classmates or your coworkers who are in healthcare, because you're understanding a little bit more of what they're dealing with, and even just like what their everyday routine looks like. And they might not have the time to sit down and have an interview with you about how they're going to use your products, but if you're working with them and learning from them, you kind of get that as just like part of your work together, is you're learning to understand each other better. I think that a lot of the value that comes out of that is when it's almost like learning to see in a different way. And so you can't unsee that knowledge. You can't unlearn what you already know about, a certain discipline. And so while you're going to be learning to talk to people in healthcare, you're also always going to be outside. You're always going to have some type of difference in the way that you approach problems, and that's valuable too. So it is really important, I think, to emphasize that not everyone who's interested in healthcare needs to be a clinician, because that's why we have clinicians. That's why we have people who are so passionate about caring for patients and do that as part of their everyday work. It's also important to have an in-between. It's also important to have someone who cares enough to understand what a healthcare worker goes through, and also what a patient goes through, and also how the system functions. But have the time, the energy, and maybe like the ideas that you get from working with people, because healthcare, if anything, healthcare workers are just the most innovative people that I have ever worked with. Just hearing the problems they solve every single day, that's going to change the way that you work, and that's going to provide so much value to healthcare outside of being in either space entirely. I think the in-between is also really important.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, absolutely. That translation piece is everything. And I think sometimes we forget that when we're talking to clinicians or users that we, might say for our products, that trust is a really big thing. If people don't feel like they're being listened to, or that their perspective is being heard, they don't trust to share their authentic selves and their experiences. And so that translation of knowing how to speak both languages, or multiple languages, essentially, in the spaces means everything for that to be able to actually move something forward and make an impact. Really, really wonderful speaking with you, Charissa. Thank you so much for being our guest today. I really appreciate it. I'm going to give you the opportunity to hop off because you already know the information we're about to talk about. So I'm sure you have better ways of spending your evening than listening to things about a program that you already know. So thank you again so much. Have a wonderful evening and a great summer as you wrap up your Master of Product Innovation and your graduate certificate in healthcare.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good luck, Charissa. Thank you for sharing.
Fantastic. All right, so now we get into the nitty-gritty details of all the stuff that you need to know about the certificate. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen here. And okay. All right, and make sure I don't lose my people here. Okay, so we can start. Let's see. All right, Ingrid, do you want to kick us off and talking about deadlines?
Oh, deadlines on June 15th, which is in just a couple of weeks from now. We will close the registration or the applications for this program, and the start date will be in August for the next semester. I can't give you an exact date, but it's mid-August.
I think it's
And
the
I believe
24th of August is the first day of classes.
Is it later this year? Okay, so
at least for the Monroe Park campus. So the Da Vinci classes will start on August 24th.
right, but you'll be notified ahead of time, and you could always look online. And then if you're not interested in the fall, then we have rolling admissions. So October 15th would be the next date. That would be for January class. And then April 30th for the summer classes. So we have courses that are given every semester that you could join. There's no prescribed time that you have to join each one of them. It depends on your schedule. And we'll go through that as well. It's overview of the whole program. It's part-time. It's 1 to 2 years to complete, depending on how many courses you can take. There's a 12-credit graduate certificate. 6 credits are from the VCU School of Nursing's leadership program, and 6 credits are from Da Vinci's Master Program of Innovation. And we also have Da Vinci, well, even though there's 6 credits required from each, there are many more courses that you can take within the Da Vinci program. And they're a little more flexible in terms of they're always coming up with new courses. And I recommend a couple of them, well, probably all of them. And I may take extra courses this summer. You don't know that yet, Allison. They have an IP course I highly recommend it for everybody. The Da Vinci courses are scheduled after 5 o'clock to accommodate working professionals. They're synchronous and some are offline. They're synchronous, correct? The courses for the nursing program are offered online, but they're not synchronous. And you heard the student previously, Charissa, talking about, even though that they're asynchronous, there is quite a lot that you get out of that in terms of even communication. You apply through the VCU graduate program.
Yes, very important that if you're on the School of Nursing website or on the Master of Product Innovation website, that the links that take you to the application are actually on the VCU Graduate School website, and that's where you find our programs in order to apply. And I will say that the Da Vinci Center, we are working this summer to start at least one of our fall courses as a fully online opportunity for students to take it. So if you are a person who is not living in Richmond but are interested in this program, we are in the process of converting the certificate to offering a fully online option. This is starting in the fall. It won't technically become official until fall of 2022, but we're trying to make it available for students this year to kind of do a test run of what that might look like for someone to do a completely online version of the certificate. But the hope is to launch nationally with that fully online option coming for fall of 2022.
Excellent. And you'll tell us which courses go online fully?
Yeah.
Get to that slide?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Next slide. So what is required is that you have a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university. We have on paper that the GPA must be 3.0 or higher on a 4.0 scale, but we make exceptions based on holistic view of the applicant. In other words, if their experiences, their ideas, their essay, and when we do the interview really lends itself to this person would be very successful in this program, we will overlook that. There is no requirement for GRE, GMATs, or MCAT scores. It's not required for this program at all, so there's no worry there. For non-native English speakers who have not previously been awarded an undergraduate degree taught in English from a university or college located in the United States, they need to provide evidence for proficiency in English by one of the following. There's 3 choices: the TOEFL scoring 100 or higher, the IELTS scoring 6.5 or higher, or get a passing score on the VCU English Language Program Comprehensive Test. So any of those would qualify. And again, it's a very holistic view of the applicant when we're admitting to this program.
Yes, we understand that GPAs can, especially in undergrad, can commonly be like credit scores, easy to drop, hard to bring up. And one traumatic semester can kind of destroy a GPA. So the holistic view is very important to us, and understanding the people and the humans that want to come into this program. So if you don't quite have that 3.0 GPA, don't let that scare you away from applying to this program.
Right. So again, we said 6 credits from each program. That's the minimum. And we can substitute out different classes. It depends on which program you're looking at. So in the fall of 2021, the Nursing 515 is a 3-credit course that talks about holistic leadership. Allison, is this where we talk about each individual class?
Yes,
I forgot this. Okay, so let me tell you about 515. 515, well, first off, all these courses are interdisciplinary. They're all online. There's many different people in the course. There's nurses, EMTs, physician assistants, engineers, education people, design people, anyone that is innovative and has that natural bent that could be in these courses, as long as they meet the other metrics. This 515 course is called Holistic Leadership in Healthcare Delivery. Forgot the title. So what it's about is the course looks at leadership styles, including yourself, your own leadership styles, the organization that you might be working in's leadership style, society and perspectives of leadership styles. Look at the emphasis will be placed on communication and decision-making skills, ultra important when you're working within the healthcare space, whether it's product innovation, product development. If you want to intersect with the healthcare arena, these are important concepts. So in the spring of 2022, we have Nursing 517, even though it has NURS in front of it, doesn't mean it's strictly for nurses. Again, it's interdisciplinary. This one's called Improvement in Science. Nope, I lied to you. This one is called Implications for Human Material Resources. Let me get that right up. This one talks about individual and group thinking and decision-making, foundations in human resources, management and law, what you can and can't do by law when you're working with human resources, analysis and design, managing conflict. It looks at the supply chain and logistics and management. It also includes product evaluation and decision-making related to sustainability. Many times we come up with processes or even products and we implement them, but don't really look at the part of sustainability. That's the make or break of any program or even product. And it's used in the system. Yeah. So the next course is the 603 course, Improvement Science and Outcomes Management, also 3 credits. And this course itself talks about or emphasizes the foundations of quality and safety science. Ultra important when you're working with any kind of product or process or system. Helps you identify needs and analyze root causes of problems. Many times that's where the product development or the innovation comes, is trying to solve those problems. So it's very helpful to learn how to do a root cause analysis. Without that need, then you have a product sitting on a shelf not being used, or even a process. So once that's analyzed and you learn how to do that and practice that, coming up with a solution to that problem will be working inside groups. And then even is the solution that you come up with, is it valid? Does it work? So you bring it back into the system and you could test it. So all those processes are discussed and explained, and there are group projects in every single one of these courses. It's a very hands-on teaching style for all 3 of these courses. That's it for these 3 courses, and then take it for the Da Vinci, Allison.
Okay, so starting in this fall, we will have Inno 502. So this is the course that starting next week, I'm really working with the faculty member to make sure that this can be a fully online offering. Just for anybody who can't be on campus or is not yet comfortable being on campus in a space during the pandemic. That makes sense. So this particular course is taught by a gentleman who is a international business consultant, a investor. He is super sharp. He's one of the first faculty that we ever had come into Da Vinci, and someone that we hope never leaves. He is super in tune to his students, can help adjust his teaching to what it is the students want to learn very easily, and he's really great. But if you don't come from a business background and need to understand the way innovation or product innovation works within a business world, this is what it is. What do you need to really understand the business case to build a business model for a particular product or service or process that you're working under, and then, or that you're working on, and then how do you actually move that thing forward? What is the return on investment that you might be able to get? How do you actually understand the value of what it is that you are creating? Those types of subjects. So really getting the business side of things. That course also currently partners with a course that I teach in the fall, which isn't one listed here, but it is one that we will sub in to count for the certificate if you're interested in it. I just need to know ahead of time. So when we do our initial interview or those kinds of things after you fill out your application, if you're interested in this, we should talk about it. So basically this course is called Inno 590 Da Vinci Project. And this is where the projects that we just heard Charissa talk about in terms of engaging in cross-disciplinary teams. So people from arts and business and engineering and humanities and medical can all come together on one team where they work on a project that I source from the community. So that might be for the Pfizers, the CarMaxes, the Capital Ones, the McKessons, the Alpha Laval kind of groups, or it may be directly from our health system. So a problem that's been identified in the VCU health system. It might come from a local startup. But basically I have to source those projects in advance, which is why I need to know who's coming into the class in the fall so that I can choose the right projects to be able to fit what the students are hoping to learn as they come through. So if you want to work on a product, if you want that product to be in healthcare, I would need to make darn sure that I have a healthcare product in that class for it this fall for it to work, but we still have a little time. So there is an opportunity to do that. And all you have to do is just reach out to me. We can have a conversation, learn about what you want to learn, and then we can help form the projects and teams and those kinds of things to help you get a really, really good experience in these courses. Very challenging course. So that one was Inno 590 Da Vinci Project, not listed here, but one that is available to you. So reach out to me if you have questions there. Spring of 2022, there's only one class listed here, but there's another one that I'm going to talk about in the next slide that we plan to offer every semester. So we're going to test that this summer and this fall, and seeing how much enrollment we get. And if there's a lot of interest in this course, we're going to offer it again in the spring. And so it's we offer this, that one is a 3-credit topics course speaking on innovation, design thinking, and change management. And I'll talk a little bit more about that one on the next slide, but just so you know that one we plan to offer every semester, and that would give you 2 courses in the spring that you could potentially join into. The 651 project, the one that's listed here, this is actually the first half of our capstone for the Master of Product Innovation program. This class is more specifically to people who already have a product or a service in mind. So it could be when you enter the program or after you go through your first class, you have a product that you really want to work on or a service that you really want to work on, moving it towards commercialization or launch or FDA testing or where it is that you want to go. You can join this class, and it's all 6 credits that you need to complete the entire certificate. You don't have to just stick to those 6 credits. You can always engage in other ones too, but this is one way to do that. And they step-by-step you through the process as an individual, because every product journey is different. So as an individual, you get personalized mentorship. We bring in people outside of the instructor to also help mentor students to make sure we have someone with a background in medical products to be able to help, and different perspectives from, IP attorneys and from, startup founders and other entrepreneurs who have been out there. They've done this stuff. But our network is basically people who do this in the real world. And then they also come in and teach in the Da Vinci Center. Similar to what we would see in healthcare, right? Your nursing classes are going to be taught by people who don't exist in healthcare. So this is a very practical kind of program to move into. So yes, that one's slotted really for people who already have a product idea in mind. You can also join into a product with someone else who maybe a Master of Product Innovation student who's in that course. And we can have that conversation later to make some introductions and see if there's a match there. The summer 2022, this is tentative, right? So our classes tend to change a little bit from year to year, but I'm going to get into the details of that in the next slide of the ones we're offering this year, so you can get a really good idea of what to expect come next year. So this first class for summer of 2022 is Inno 600. It's called Integrative Design Studio, but this is really where we match students with the European Innovation Academy. This is a 3-week experience in July that allows students to go from idea to pitching to investors in 3 weeks. That seems kind of crazy, and it is. I don't think anybody really expects a fully developed, tested product or business to come out of EIA. Some do. But you go there, you meet people from 65 different nationalities. And when I say go there, I mean Italy or Portugal to engage in this experience. So you are in a perpetual state of problem solving. You are in another country where you may not speak the language. You're around people and cultures who don't have the same experiences as you do, you're either joining a team or they're joining your team to do this. But it takes you through the fire hose effect of everything product innovation and entrepreneurship in just that 3 weeks. So if you really want the overview and the quick and dirty of all of it, this is a really amazing experience to engage in. And something that I found so valuable for our Master of Product Innovation students. We just can't replicate that international experience in the way that the European Innovation Academy can, nor can we replicate that fire hose process. You're mentored from, C-suite executives from Google and Twitter and Amazon and Ducati and all of these large corporations that they want to invest in future entrepreneurs and people who are interested in the product space. And so they give their time and energy to you as mentors. And so the network you get, it's like 50,000 people who have gone through this thing before, and you gain access to those networks. So if you did have a product you want to develop and you need to build a team around that, EIA has a lot of really great resources and people to be able to do that.
And which course number was that?
That's Inno 600. That's Integrative Design Studio is also the European Innovation Academy. And then in the summer, we also offer these 691s. So 691s are topics courses. So we'll offer lots of them on a whole bunch of different topics pertaining to product innovation. Sometime in the future, I would really like to offer one specifically to medical products. And I already have a couple people who may be interested in teaching that class. And I know I may already have a guest speaker sitting here with me. I won't take too much of your time, Ingrid, but I will certainly.
No worries. You got to choose your slide before you hit the 691s.
Oh yeah. I'm just to explain this. So we tend to offer some that are 1 credits and then some that are 3 credits. So they're a variable credit. You can take up to 6 credits in 691s to count towards this degree. So you could technically take all topics classes to fulfill your credits for this particular course. And this summer, we're going to be offering 10 credits. So this is just an example. I know our summer deadline has passed, but this is just an example of what we're offering this year so that you know what may be available to you in the future. So this very first one I've already mentioned is the Innovation, Design Thinking, and Change Management. This one offers 3 internationally recognized certifications in design thinking and change management from a company called Experience Point. We are trained through Experience Point, and then we train our students to give you these official certifications. You will also be working on a real life project that comes out of this with a co-teacher. So it's being co-taught by our executive director and someone who I can't announce yet until they're officially hired, who does this has done this with Capital One, who does this with the US government, but really focusing on empathy being the starting point for product development, really design thinking being that process that you start with empathy, which I guess the easiest way to explain that, if you've never heard of design thinking, I imagine we may have a bunch of healthcare people involved in this. You've taken science classes. I compare this to the scientific process of forming a hypothesis, forming testable solutions, testing them, getting your data, using that to kind of repeat the process and make a new iteration. It's that with empathy at the beginning. That's essentially what design thinking is, but it's a process to help lead you through it in a way that helps you identify with your user to make sure you're solving for the right problem and that there are people who actually want to use your product in the long run after you go through all that work to build it. So that one's really, really interesting. That one's only 8 weeks or is 8 weeks long. So about half the summer or a little bit more than half the summer. The 902 section, I'll just refer to the section numbers at this point, so I don't have to say all of those numbers over and over again, is user-based research. This course actually starts tomorrow, which I'm excited about, but is one we've taught for a couple summers in a row. So when we're talking about empathizing with users and how to understand what's in your user's head, right? Sometimes they say things because that's what you want to hear and may not how they actually behave. So how do you get to the root of that? How do you understand what users' needs really are? What research methods can you use to work with people in order to solicit the data that you need to be able to make intelligent decisions about the product you move forward? 2-week class, really excellent. Also a person coming from industry teaching that course. The 903 is UX UI. If you are already a graduate student at VCU, this UX UI course is still available to you. It is in late July, I think it believes late July, early August is when it runs, but it's only 2 weeks long. It's going to be taught by Erin Brooks, and she does this stuff professionally. She runs user experience, user interface teams. You'll look at good design, bad design. You'll pick apart different types of websites where the navigation is just horrible, but that's what user experience, user interface is. It can be a digital experience, so anything you engage in a website, the experience you have while you go through it, the interface that you are interacting with is all part of this, but it can also be something physical, like going to a restaurant. Everything that you interact with and engage with in that can also be considered UX UI or even service design. So in this one, this is going to be a stellar class, and I just want to point out, none of these classes require a background in this. They are all written for people who are just coming into the Master of Product Innovation program who have virtually no experience in this. Charissa came from our undergraduate program, but we don't necessarily have a lot of students who come directly from that into our masters that already have some kind of experience in this. So these are open to any student who just has the interest, and I promise that we can meet you where you are and help you excel to where you want to be. The 904 class actually starts tonight. It just kicked off about 32 minutes ago. This one is intellectual property protection. So when you are creating something or you're bringing an idea to life, what is actually considered intellectual property? What can be patented, trademarked, copyrighted? What is it that you can hold and protect that is valuable, that is novel, and you can actually register it to where you have a protectable thing that is worth something? That means something when you're developing a business. It means you have collateral to be able to take out loans, or you can prove that you already have value that makes investors want to invest in your company and help you move it forward. Lots of opportunity there, but knowing what is protectable and what isn't protectable is really great. And this year, this one's being taught by someone who's also a startup founder. We have a couple different IP attorney firms that we work with and who also give discounts to our students to work with them. Just throwing that out there. Working with lawyers on IP is not a cheap thing, not an inexpensive thing by any means. So any little bit of help there definitely works, but they are so engaged with our students and absolutely love working with them, and really interesting people. So even if law doesn't seem like something you might be interested in, this is the very practical application of that and how it pertains to product. And even if you're an artist and you want to know how to protect your own stuff, this would be applicable to you. And then the last one here, this one unfortunately is full for this summer. So even though it's offered starting June 22nd, it isn't one that will be available to all graduate students this time around, but it will be through next year. So this is Scrum Master certification. And if you don't know what Scrum is, it is a process methodology or project methodology to kind of help you understand everything that you need to accomplish in a project. The most important things that you need to be able to accomplish in that. How do you work better within a team? How do you take time to really have a conversation about how your team works through what we call a sprint. So like a 2 to 4 week time period to work through a piece of a project. And then how do you make it better for the next sprint that you go through? It's something that we use a lot in the Master of Product Innovation program, and something that I know our students really value, and is also another internationally recognized certification that you can go through. So this is one instance where you might have to, where you would have to take a test in order to get that official certification, but you can take the class without taking the test. But Ingrid and I both are certified Scrum Master, and I last year became a certified product owner. So there's lots of different trainings in this, but this is one really great opportunity. So if you want to check these out, you're considering for next year, you can click the link at the bottom of the slide, and there you'll see the descriptions for these courses. They'll be up for a little bit longer until we have made it through the summer, and then they will probably come down. But again, that first one, that 8-week long one, that's going to be a full 15-week class starting in the fall. So if you want to take that one, you can go ahead and sign up for that one in the fall. Yeah, that one is available. All right, the next one. Okay, so tuition is kind of interesting in Virginia state institutions, in that it's dependent on the program that you're in. So if you are only wanting to come into this certificate, you're just applying to this certificate, you're not part of any other academic program at VCU, you technically belong to the School of Nursing, and you pay the standard university rates for graduate tuition. So if you're in state, it's $701 per credit hour. If you are out of state, it's $1442 per credit hour. If you belong to, let's say, an MBA program or biomedical engineering masters, those kinds of things, you will pay the tuition rate of your home unit. So whatever you normally pay per credit hour for your tuition, that's the tuition rate. And if you are a Master of Product Innovation student or want to be a Master of Product Innovation student, you actually don't pay anything for the certificate beyond your credits in the program. And that's for a couple reasons. One being that we have 6 credits of electives that you can just use your nursing classes and slot into the Master of Product Innovation program as those 6 elective credits. Or if you want to take more electives than what's required in the program, our tuition rate is flat, meaning that as long as you are registered for 9 credits in the fall semester, you can take up to 15 without paying any other tuition. So that's a really big challenge to take 15 graduate credits. I'll put that out there, but it is an opportunity to essentially be able to get free tuition in those courses. I can't guarantee anything on fees, but I know that the tuition is flat and nothing's charged beyond that. Okay, so, and 2, if you have questions about other programs or wanting to know what their tuition rates are, there is a link down here at the bottom of the slide for the tuition calculator for VCU, and you should be able to see those rates there. Okay. All right, financial aid. Ingrid, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to?
The reason I'm going to pass it on to you is because you know about all these financial aid scholarships and financial arrangements. I will say, though, that the School of Nursing does have scholarships available, and you could look online. If you are a nurse, you could look online and you could access those scholarships, or at least the applications for them. The Da Vinci Center has scholarships available for students who enroll in the Master of Product Innovation program. In other words, if they're in the master's program for that, they can receive $5,000 scholarships.
I do want to clarify that is for this fall. So we have been given a very generous
okay.
To help us offset the challenges that COVID has presented to our students. And so every student who is accepted into the Master of Product Innovation for fall of 2021, actually for summer of 2021 too, will all receive a $5,000 scholarship.
And that's this time only?
Yes, unless this person decides to continue their generosity for future semesters. But
I understand, and that is very generous of them. Financial aid and loans. Graduate students qualify for the financial aids and enrolled in at least 5 credits of graduate coursework. If you'd rather take out personal loans, ELM Select is a good resource, and Allison knows many more places that you could hunt down some resources. And there are graduate assistantships that are available across VCU. You have to look at the job boards and search for graduate assistantships that include tuition stipends. And that may cover much of the tuition, but probably not the full cost.
one added detail to this that I really should add as a talking point here. In terms of number of credit hours, so if you've never attended a graduate program before, as an undergrad, you have to be enrolled in like 12 credits in order to qualify for certain levels of financial aid. That doesn't apply to graduate school. It's only 5 credits. So you don't even technically have to be full-time to qualify for financial aid. And if you're coming out of undergrad or happen to be below the age of 25 and applying to this program, your parents' FAFSAs do not count towards graduate applications. So it's just your income that is considered as you are applying for financial aid. So
that is a good talking point. I would definitely add that.
You're right. Like I'm about to edit the document live while that's happening. But an important thing to know that I didn't know as a graduate student coming into many years ago, that I will not name, as to not allow people to do math to know exactly how old I am. So
funny. So what do you need to submit? We're on that slide. Yes. Application form and an application fee of $70, but the fees are waived for fall of 2021. 3 references: letters of recommendation, professional and or academic. And as long as you have a couple in, we could interview you. We're waiting for the 3rd. We need a statement of purpose from you. Why do you want to take this certificate program? And a resume stating relevant work experiences. We do ask for official transcripts from schools, and you need to have that before you're officially in the program, but you can absolutely submit unofficial transcripts for us to reference. And that's
pretty much it. If you do need a fee waiver, please reach out to me. I can get you a code for that. They're not automatically waived, so we'll have to issue a code for that, but please feel free to reach out directly so I can get you that code. And then in terms of this stuff, you can click submit. As long as we have that statement of purpose and your resume in there, you just list names and email addresses of your references. They don't need to have letters submitted by the time you click submit. So we try to make this as easy as possible for anybody who's really interested. You know, it's we don't want it to be an intimidating process. Really, it's we just want to know who you are as a human and why you're interested in a program like this, what gets you excited, and then we can bring you in for an interview and learn that even more, or learn about more from you as an individual. But that's just really a conversation. It's the whole point is just to get to know who you are and make sure you're that we're a good fit for you, that this program's a good fit for you, and the other way around. All right, and so stay in touch with us. If anything about this got you excited, reach out. Ingrid and I are both happy to have a conversation with you individually if you like, answer any questions that you have, or we can do all of that through email. But here are our email addresses, and this is something we love to talk about and love to do. So please reach out to us.
And we'll send you, people that are not here in person, or at least by Zoom, you will be sent a link to this program.
Yes. By the time you see this recording, it's already in your inbox. So you'll have this slide deck as well. But yeah, so thank you for registering for this, signing up for this event, and hopefully watching it afterwards. Thank you very much for your time and your energy. And let us know if you have any questions or need anything from us. All right. Have a good day.